So, Pearl Harbor, the place in Hawaii that was vital for the United States Pacific border, and the place where much of the Navy is placed. It was such a strategic place for America that Japan knew it was jeopardizing America's ability to join the Second World War if Pearl Harbor was wiped out. So, without much consideration of other targets within the Pacific, the Japanese Empire decided to attack Pearl Harbor as a way to delay the Americans from fighting and ultimately try to win the war. Now, this attack caused shock throughout America. Damage was done, and Americans were angry about it. American men and women volunteered to fight, and Congress agreed to declare war on Japan. As we all know from Franklin D. Roosevelt, the day of the attack on Pearl Harbor would be quote unquote a day that will live in infamy. But was this a success for the Japanese? Was there anything else they could do in order to knock down America further? It's easy to say the damage was done on Pearl Harbor was devastating, but it is considered a pinprick compared to what could have happened. The first critical mistake that the Japanese made was ignoring the fact that aircraft carriers were not at Pearl Harbor. Why was this significant, you may ask? Well, as we all know, a carrier is simply a floating island that can support air support when needed. This ship was vital for providing immediate support and covering a large landmass or ocean. Unlike other ships, however, this was the most expensive to build and the most crucial to protect. Even when America had multiple aircraft carriers, one sunk can lead to insufficient protection for an important area. The Empire of Japan expected an aircraft carrier in Pearl Harbor, but they received the message only a couple hours before the attack. This made Japan attack different ships, such as destroyers and battleships, which were not as important as the carriers were. Now let's talk about the things that were there but were not attacked. The first target that was missed was the submarines. With these submarines built, the Empire of Japan never expanded further in the Pacific. On December 7th, 1941, however, the submarines were still under construction, which made it as an insufficient target for the Japanese, quote unquote. The Japanese wanted to target the ships that made an immediate influence on the battlefield. This mistake ultimately made the Japanese fleet inferior to the American Navy as time went on. Now, another important target was the oil storages. These oil storages were so close to Pearl Harbor that Americans were afraid that the Japanese could easily destroy them. If these oil storages were destroyed, factories and products that needed oil would stop. This would ultimately halt manufacturing, limit the usage of war equipment, and ultimately leave the American border open. However, Japanese airplanes did not attack the oil storages due to not launching the third wave. They also viewed that as an inferior target, and focused on other targets that were an immediate threat. Even with the destruction that happened in Pearl Harbor, America was able to fix the damaged planes and ships immediately. It was not entirely because of the war economy that pumped out war supplies nearly a ton per minute, but rather it was the repair ships that were left untouched. In less than a year, 18 out of the 21 ships were repaired. This enabled America to fight back shortly after the attack, which surprised the Japanese. The true mastermind of this attack on Pearl Harbor realized all these flaws based on his experience in America. Also known as Isoroku Yamamoto, he was one of the many people that did not celebrate. He understood how factories worked in the United States. Unlike his home country, America had mass production factories, which enabled America to pump out products in a rapid pace. The rapid production enabled prices to go down, which enabled the customer to buy more. Even if the attack went well, the American economy and morale would trump the Empire of Japan. The victory would just be at a later date. So there you have it, the explanation of why the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941 wasn't as bad as it seemed. Now, of course, this event made America suffer a death ratio of 57 to 1. They did destroy and damage some of the vital ships and airplanes, which did prevent America from taking over Japanese islands. However, this scenario could have been a lot worse, since it was said to be a sucker punch to the American Navy in the Pacific. But however, not only did this attack fail to destroy the Pacific Fleet, but it also strengthened America's power and morale. The economy immediately got out of the Great Depression, which enabled America to fight the Second World War strong. The Declaration of Neutrality amongst the population dropped from 75% to below 10%. and many young adults volunteered for service. As what Yamamoto said about the attack, Japan has just awakened the sleeping giant beast.